Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Craig Hiking Pipes. And it's Friday, and as such, smoking my Matches commemorative 673 Roma. Um, in it, some H&H Pure Virginia. Really like this one. So, being that it's Friday, story time. So, over the past week or so, there's been a number of presenters, starting with Doug the Commercial Piper, talking about a childhood toy that many of us older folks used to play with, and that was jarts, lawn darts. And Sam, at Doing It Wrong, elaborated on that. He migrated from jarts to arrows. And then Uncle Willie expanded upon that with hatchets. Don't know if it knocked any sense into him or not. I don't think so. Well, being a young boy, growing up predominantly in the very early 70s, I was not immune to playing with sharp objects either. And I did have these jarts, and I did do some unadvised things with them. Fortunately, no injuries occurred. But migrating to other sharp objects. So, as a young boy, you like to fashion sharp objects, or at least I did. And when I was younger, we had leaf rakes. And these leaf rakes, they were made out of bamboo. The tines were made out of bamboo, and then they kind of were brought together, and they were wire tied to a wooden handle, big long wooden handle. And there was a flat that was ground into the base of the handle, and that flat rested on the rake, and that was riveted to the rake itself. Well, after a while of hard use, the rake would usually fail at the where the fan kind of came together, and all the reeds were bunched up, and they were wire tied to the handle, and that would come loose, and the rake would start kind of falling apart a little bit. And we had one of those rakes. So what we decided to do, my friend Eddie and I, is we took off the handle. Now, when you take off the handle from the rake, as I said, there was this kind of a flat ground into it. So you already had a semi-point going at the end of the handle. Well, that wasn't quite good enough. So we broke out our pocket knife, and we whittled more of a point into the base of the handle, basically fashioning a spear. And of course, when you do this, you want to see how effective it is. So we stood probably, 25 feet apart, 30 feet apart, and we were throwing the spear kind of in each other's direction. And, the idea was, let's see how it sticks into the ground. So we did a couple of back and forths. And when Eddie threw the spear towards my direction, my foot got, I don't know if in the way is the right word, but my foot was there, and I didn't move it out of the way. And I was wearing my Pro-Ked sneakers. Now, these older sneakers were canvas with a rubber toe on it. and the spear came down and hit my foot right where the rubber ends and the canvas starts. These Pro-Keds, for those folks who don't know what these look like, these essentially were the sister shoe sneaker to the Converse All-Stars. Very, very similar in design. So, stick came down, and I felt a little bit of pain. It didn't stick into my foot, but it bounced off. But I still felt pain nonetheless. Figure something went wrong. So, went into the house and took off my sneaker, and my sock was red. It was bloody. So, peeled off my sock, and what had happened is between my pinky toe and the next toe over, there, using the fingers, there's this little webbing here that kind of goes between the fingers. Well, that's where the stick had landed, and it split right here. So my pinky toe was kind of, a little more flexible than it should have been from the rest of the foot. Well, my first reaction was to get it washed off. My idea to get it washed off was I stuck my foot into the toilet bowl and then flushed it, so the water would actually rinse everything down. Obviously, it was a pretty good injury, and my mother was home at the time. She came into the bathroom and "What the heck are you doing?" and showed her my foot. Well, Mother was a pretty cool lady, so she rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, looks like we have to take you to the hospital." So she called my father at work, and she took me up to the hospital, and Father met us there. And, checked in and what have you, so in the emergency room. And meanwhile, I had, with my mother's help, bandaged up my foot. So they finally called me in. And even though I was, fairly young kid, I was probably, 10, 11, 12 years old. Probably 10 or 11, actually. They took me back, but my parents, weren't really allowed to accompany me. Now, one thing about me is that has carried over into my adulthood. I had a pathological fear of needles. So, what they had to do was they had to inject the numbing agent through my pinky toe into the adjacent toe. Well, when we brought this needle out, to me it looked like the top of the Empire State Building. And I was not a happy camper. Literally took 3 doctors and 1 nurse to hold me still enough on the table while another doctor or nurse injected the needle into my foot. And I'm going to switch over to my mother's side of the story, who was out in the emergency room. And apparently, and I remember this, I probably let out a murderous scream as though I was being butchered. And from my mother's side of the story, she's out in the waiting room, as I said. And apparently there was a lady sitting next to her in the waiting room, and hearing this blood-curdling screaming going on. The lady said to my mother, "Oh my God, that poor kid. What are they doing to him? They must be really hurting him, and so forth." And my mom calmly said, "It's my son." And the woman apparently looked horrified at my mother. Aren't you concerned? Aren't? And my mother goes, "I know what they're doing to him. They're just giving him a needle, and that's how he reacts to needles," which was the truth. So once they gave me that needle, and they I finally calmed down after that process was done. They had me laying down flat, so I really couldn't see what was going on, but I kind of could feel, they were putting stitches into my toe, between my toes, and all I felt was the kind of the thread being pulled as they were doing this. So I wasn't quite as hysterical as I was getting that needle, and they put 3 stitches into my between my pinky toe and the adjacent toe. So that's my story on playing with sharp objects, how graduated from playing with these jarts, which, now that folks have been talking about it, boy, yeah, I can understand why they kind of took those off the market a little bit, but at the same time, reflecting back to my childhood, we had some pretty cool toys when we were kids. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging in, and hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. If you're going anywhere, keep all your digits intact, please. So, with that, be well, be safe, and most importantly, be good to one another. We'll talk to you again very soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.